Hi, my name is Linsdau. I'm a polar explorer and motivational speaker. It's travel day! Today I'm going to tell you what it's like to climb Mount Elbrus, and is it really tough to achieve one of the 7 summits? Is it really that tough to climb Mount Elbrus? People say, oh yeah, that's no problem. You just put on some boots and you hike up and down. And is it really that big a deal? Well, if you ask this guy, Randall Peters, he's been on 7 summits, North Pole, South Pole. He's done some crazy stuff. His book, Journeys to the Edge, by the way, total winner. In fact, I need to make a note about that. That Mount Elbrus is a tough mountain. You might end up looking, like really tired. You got some skis. The mountains like this, it doesn't really look that dramatic. That's pretty sheer. Mount Elbrus is a very distinct mountain. It is in the Caucasus mountain range in Russia, way south of Russia, 2.5 hours on a jet south of Moscow towards the country of Georgia, not the state of Georgia, towards the Black Sea. I mean, it's really cool to be on top of that mountain, seeing way out there the Black Sea. I've always heard about it. I've always wanted to go there, but next trip. So is it really tough to climb Mount Elbrus? Absolutely. Do you need to have trained and prepared? Oh yeah. That mountain is not a walk in the park, because when you finally get up to base camp, after you've done some not training, but preparatory climbs for, they call it acclimatization or acclimation to that altitude, it is literally up the face of the mountain, like going up a very steep ski slope, and it is just a slow grind all the way up. It is tough. And what makes it tougher is that, except for when you look up and you look around the saddle, you can see the whole way up where you're marching. Now, you'd say, Aaron, that should be so easy because you can see where you're going. No, actually, it's not that easy because it's very psychologically difficult to deal with. One of the challenges is you start where it's relatively warm, and by the time you get to the top of the mountain, it's freezing. You got to have those big double plastic mountaineering boots. Now, I got the pretty big boots, and one of the challenges, I was hiking along, it's doing great, but boy, when you go down, just adjusting your toes, it got so warm as I got lower in the mountain. My feet got sweaty. Even though I had double liner socks, my toes got torn up. I got kind of worked over. I still had a good time, but I definitely walked into camp with bloody little toes. I dealt with them, and I did the best I could, but I couldn't believe how warm it was in the mountain when I went there. So I went in late September, and I went with a company called Pilgrim Tours. Now, I'm not sponsored by Pilgrim Tours. They do know of me, but I do not receive any financial compensation for recommending them. But if you want probably the best experience in climbing Mount Elbrus, I highly recommend Pilgrim Tours. They are a Russian company, and they're well-based. They're highly focused on safety. The staff there is incredible. The guides are very rigorous to make sure that you have a good time there. But you got to remember that it's Russia, so the rules are going to be a little different. The climbing rules and everything's still the same. When you need to be roped up, you get roped up. If you train a lot and you train super hard, I promise you'll have a way better time climbing Mount Elbrus than the people who didn't train, and they're just staggering along and kind of miserable. Because my climbing partner and I and the guide, we'd train, well, the guide is highly trained, but we'd trained pretty hard. I didn't know the other climber, and the climber didn't know me, but when we were roped together, our guide saw that we were actually able to really crank it. And there's a fixed rope section that you need to clip into climbing up the mountain, because it's very steep, and if you slide, you'll hit a bunch of people, kill people, slide, tumble, and probably die. Yes, people do die on Mount Elbrus from falling into crevasses, and from altitude sickness. So our guide saw that, man, these guys can really push it. Hey, and he said, you know what? let's push it a little bit harder because we can get ahead of this massive group and we'll be able to get on the summit, choo, take our selfies, and then get off the summit. So even though I didn't really want to push it too hard, I was right at the limit, like, oh man, come on, keep stepping. It was totally worth it. So when people say, hey, it's easy, you don't need to train that hard, I promise you, train as hard as you can, and not 2 hours a week, but 10, 15, and by the time you're ready to go, you better be doing 16, 18 hours a week. Now you say that's totally absurd, but believe me, when you're slogging along with a slow group and you're able to go way faster, going slow sucks. If you can hike faster and you're able to climb better, the training utterly pays off. Now, remember that your summit day can be, it's like, it can be 12 hours. I mean, it can be really long. If you decide to start from base camp and hike all the way up, you have to wake up, check this out, you have to wake up at 10 p.m. at night. What? Yeah, you got to wake up at 10 p.m. night after a rest day, and then if you want to hike from base camp, you begin hiking the long haul up to 5,100 meters, that's 16,000 feet, and then you go around the saddle and then up the mountain all the way to 5,645, or I'll put notes below on how tall that mountain is. So one of the options that makes Mount Elbrus a little bit easier is if you pump that guy and you climb back and forth, you can actually hire a snowcat to take you part of the way up. So if you're a hardcore 7-summiter with 0 assist and all this, and you say, oh, I didn't do this. Well, did you take the gondolas or the ski lifts up? Yeah, then you didn't actually climb Mount Elbrus. You really need to start from the valley, hike this long, dusty, miserable road for several hours to reach base camp, and then you can say yes. So traditionally that you did this. So traditionally what people do is they piece and part this whole mountain together so you've effectively climbed Mount Elbrus. And that's one of the things that you've got to make sure to bring some real cash money and make sure your team has the cash, because if you want to hire this tractor basically to take you part of the way after you've earned that distance, you're going to have to throw down real cash, and it is expensive. So are you ready and are you prepared to wake up at 10 o'clock at night, put on your gear when it's really freezing, and begin marching up this mountain in your crampons with your headlamp in the dark and other people's headlamps? They used alkaline batteries, only lithium. I need to write that down. Lithium batteries. Let's see. Well, that's let's see, Randy's book. I'm making notes because as I'm talking, I've found some important things. So I'm going to put them in the link. Hit the little arrow by the video. Randy's book and link to Pilgrim Tours. Okay. Now, I'm going to put a link to Pilgrim Tours below, and I only recommend them because they're the best company. Here's a trick. Do you want to spend $1,000 or $8,000 on this climb and you end up with the same result? Yeah, okay. Nothing against my American friends. I love them. But if you, or UK friends, British, if you arrange your climb through an American company or a British company, you're going to pay out the wazoo for the climb. And what happens is you're going to get there and then you're going to team up with a Russian company to finish the climb off. Now, this past year when I went climbing there were no Americans. I only saw like 2 Americans the whole time. Why? Oh, because Russia and America, they're doing the fist fight thing. And the American companies didn't want to take it on the chin of having people get their visa, get the climbing insurance, all these expenses, and then have their visa canceled. I went with the Russian company. They didn't care. If I showed up, I was climbing. So just a word of warning, if there's any political strife at all, you may arrange your climb with an American company and it could be totally canceled. The Russians don't care. They told me as long as you get in the country and you've got your visa and you can get through there, you can pretty much go anywhere in Russia, which was really cool to learn. So I don't, not to break any Russia laws. Russia laws are very strict. You got to follow the rules in the country. Don't do anything stupid there, because as I was told, Russian jail, very interesting. So you've got to be prepared to climb and hike for 10 or 12 hours straight. If your training only added a half hour, or like you only train for a half hour, maybe 3 times a week, you're going to have a horrible time on Mount Elbrus. You need to train hard, put in the effort, get up to like 15 hours a week of training at the bare minimum, hike up and down as many mountains as you can, hit the Stairmaster. I'm thinking, I'm preparing to go climb Denali. I don't even know where I'm going to hit the stairs here. I might have to buy a gym membership, put my backpack on, and start hiking. The good part about Mount Elbrus is you don't have to carry your big backpack all the way up, so you can do the duffel bag thing. Oh, super nice. So Mount Elbrus is not nearly as hard as Denali, but it's a butt kicker. It is a butt kicker. Don't underestimate it. And please do the 10-day climb. Do not do the 8. The 10-day really helps you eliminate or reduce the chance of altitude sickness. Oh, virtually everybody who does the 8-day tour gets sick. I know it's a little bit more money and a little bit more time, but trust me. Also, getting a visa, get your visa way in advance before you go to Russia. I put it off a little bit because I wasn't sure if I was going. I came within 5 days of not having my visa. That sucked. Get that thing 3 months in advance, because trust me, you will make a mistake on your visa and it'll come back. I hired a company. I'll try and remember to put a link down there to the company. I don't know them other than they help me make it happen. So don't try and do the visa by yourself. I know it's more expensive, but have a visa company do it for you and you'll have a much better time on trying to climb Mount Elbrus. My name is Aaron Linsdau. I'm a polar explorer, motivational speaker, and professional traveler. I want you to have the best travel experience possible, and that's why I make these videos. And as such, please just hit subscribe on the channel. Like and comment on the video. Click that little arrow on the right, drop down, and add a comment. Say, Aaron, you're crazy. We love it. Who knows? Please, in the bottom links, hit support in PayPal, Venmo, and Patreon. Thank you very much for watching.